Welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Spencer and Larry, and we're going to be talking about The Haunting of Bly Manor, episodes 1 and 2, The Great Good Place, and The Pupil. We're going to be doing the entire series, but we're breaking it up into parts, so we will have episodes 1 and 2 right now, 3, 4, and 5 this weekend, and then next week we'll have two more parts, which will be 6, 7, and then we'll close out with 8 and 9. So we should have them all up by next weekend. So go ahead and hit that sub button, hit the bell so you'll be notified when they go up. So that as you're watching Bly Manor, you can check out these reviews, leave comments, hit that thumbs up. That really helps the channel. We have a lot of content on the channel. If you're new, we just did The Boys. We have Raised by Wolves reviews. We're doing Fargo season 4, Lovecraft Country. The season finale is this Sunday, which we will be doing that as well. A lot of other content coming up. But we're here to talk about The Haunting of Bly Manor. And I'm going to open with the way the episode opens. And then we're going to work our way. Since we're doing 2 episodes, we're going to be jumping around. So we're not going to do it in chronological order. So here we go. I love the opening credits. So I just want to go ahead and say that. I know it's a variation of the music from the first season, but a completely, obviously, different credit sequence with the portraits. And I believe pictures and portraits seem to be playing a major role in this show. Now, myself and Larry have not watched the first series. Spencer has. Is that the
Yes.
case in that show as far as pictures, portraits, or is that
Uh,
unique to this?
no, that's unique to this one. And the first one, I mean, if I don't remember which character, but one of them like held on to a picture very tightly, but it wasn't the same kind of reason. It wasn't the same thing. This one, it seems that the portraits themselves have. I don't know if they're necessarily like a gateway or if it's trapped certain people in there or what, but it feels like the portraits in this are way more important.
Right.
Uh,
One of the characters brings up the fact as they're walking through the manor. As I said, we're going to be jumping all around. She brings up the fact that they're all hand painted. These are all originals throughout the house. And there's been several scenes in the first 2 episodes where not just the pictures on the wall, but actual, pictures, whether it's in a music box or whatever. So, pictures and seem to be important.
well, they also show Flora. She likes to draw a lot too. So I don't know if maybe that's like a genetic thing. Maybe her mom likes to draw or paint. They don't ever, if I recall correctly, say who did the portraits. But
No,
if it's the mom or uh, Elliot from ET, I don't know which one of them it
Lord Henry.
is. Oh yeah, yeah, him.
Oh, yeah.
I have
Um,
a theory about that too.
so the opening of the series, it's actually the series is a story being told. We're at a wedding in California in 2007, and a character named Jamie. Well, before that, there's a little dinner party before the wedding, and it's a toast is being made, and the toast is very important because everyone's saying that this season, is sort of a gothic romance, and there's a whole line about when you find someone to marry or find someone to spend the rest of your life with, you're basically making the decision or accepting the fact that you're partnering with someone you're willing to watch die, which is very gruesome. But I clearly that was very intentional. Those lines of dialogue setting up the show.
Right.
Well, and it looked as though, and I don't know, we talked about how there's a character named Jamie and she's the gardener.
Mm-hmm.
So this white haired lady who's telling the story said her name was Jamie. So I don't know if that's the same person. The British gentleman giving the speech at the beginning looked a lot like Owen. And the girl who was getting married looked a lot like Flora. So, because her eyes were close set, same similar hair. So I don't know if these are the same people, basically catapulted forward. I may go back and rewatch the beginning to see if I notice anybody else. But it seems as though at least those three are still around. So I don't know if that means that the new au pair is going to die, if the brother dies, if um, the Lord Henry Elliot dies. Like I don't know. This may be something completely different. I may be reaching, but that's what I got from the initial scene.
Yeah, right. At this point, it's hard to tell if any of them, yeah, who may die, who it's about, or if honestly, like you said, you didn't want to see, but it may be the case if any of them are dead already, perhaps.
Well, and they could. I mean, people don't stay friends forever. Like sometimes shit happens and it separates people. So this whole ghost story could be, a couple of them doesn't believe the other one, or somebody ends up going ape shit, or claiming they were possessed, or it. They could be estranged and not invited to the wedding. So it doesn't mean that they're dead either. I mean, or like you said, they could be six sensing it, and Bruce Willis pops up out of nowhere. Like I don't know. There's still a lot to go on from what we've seen so far.
The opening of the story takes us 20 years in the past. The opening of it is, like I said, set in California in 2007. The story proper takes place in 1987 in London. Or where is it? No, it's not. It's near. I
I
don't
think
know.
it's
Some
I think it was northern England, closer to Scotland, but I don't
yes,
remember the
somewhere.
exact area.
So we're introduced to an American character named Danny Clayton, and before we get into her taking on the job and going to Bly Manor, she's already got some shit going on. Like she's terrified of reflections. So she covers anything up that has a reflective surface. And there's one quick shot in the beginning where car drives by and you see uh, a
Daniel
face.
Radcliffe.
Yeah, that's what it looks like with the glasses, and it's you see this throughout the first two episodes. She's extremely terrified of it. There's a scene later in episode 2, I believe, where Flora finds a pair of glasses with a crack in them in her luggage, and she has a complete meltdown. She's calling her mom, and her mom, we don't hear her, but in the exchange on the payphone while she's staying at a hostel, um, she's talking about how she's running, or no, I'm not running. So what, clearly some shit went down, but it's not some. I mean, it is important what went down, but more so the fact that is this legitimately a ghost haunting her, because that's happening before she even gets to the haunted house. You know what I mean? So she's already got some stuff going on before she even gets to Bly Manor.
I looked it up. It said Bly Manor is. It just said English countryside, although it was all filmed in Vancouver. So
That's funny. Okay.
just so you
You
know,
know,
it's not
yeah,
important,
and that
but
that was like before we got into it, and yeah, my theories are different now, but because of that, when we were at this point, and when she was doing the interview to go to the house, I thought a lot of the horror elements and the haunting was actually going to happen because she was bringing the ghost with her, like she was the thing that was haunted, and it seems like that may still be the case as well, but clearly there's plenty of other things going on in Bly Manor.
I think
I don't.
everyone's haunted in their world.
Yeah, it
Like,
seems
Yes,
like
and
it.
see that's the part because me and Brian talked about this before you had your computer problem fixed there, Larry. But we talked about that too. There's so much different stuff going on. Like Danny seems to be whatever that thing is that she keeps seeing is following her. You also have Miles, who seems to be possessed. Later in the episode 2, there's a gentleman who you keep seeing. So there's so much stuff that keeps being seen and done, but it's all different, and it's crazy to think that I I think the theme might be that each one's dealing with their own demon or
Oh,
whatever,
so you think it's like an
and
inner demons kind of thing, huh?
it's the only thing that makes sense to me so far. But I don't know.
Henry, Larry, you brought up that she goes to interview for the job. She's going to be an au pair at Bly Manor for two children, Miles and Flora, and she meets Henry Wingrave, and basically he tells her that the children's parents are dead. He alludes to they're gone, and they need someone to take care of them. The fact that she's been a teacher helps because they also need to be taught. She gives a whole speech about how she's worked in classrooms and, dealing with 20, 25 kids is difficult. She can't give enough of herself. And the fact that it's two kids, that's what's attracting her to this job because she feels she can make a difference. It looks like he's not going to give her the job, but then they meet up in a bar and, they basically, he gives her the job. And one of the big things he reveals is that the previous au pair apparently took her own life, although I'm questioning that at this point because she was found. We learned later that she was found in the lake, face down, uh, I guess drowned. And Flora is the one who found her. So
Right.
she gets all this information. She's like, "Yeah, I'm going to go to this house," and she takes the job.
Well, that's even crazier too, because like you just said, found in the lake. But I don't remember which person said it, that it's not really a lake, it's more like a glorified pond. Isn't that
Flora
what one of them
says
said
that.
or something? Yeah,
Mhm.
so that would indicate to me that it's not very deep. You cannot drown yourself. Like you could now, if you swim far enough out, you can basically just give up and be like, okay, I'm gonna die now. But your body will not let you hold yourself underwater. So if it's not very deep, if it's more like a pond, how the fuck did she not just stand up and survive?
Yeah, so clearly she was
So
murdered.
yeah, or super drunk, or there's way more to the story than she tripped and fell in the pond and drowned. Like it's something's up.
Then again, she could have, she could have like hit her head or something, and that could be possible, but I doubt it, especially given the events of the show, we seem to see that it looks like something's coming from the lake into the house, into the old wing of the building regularly,
And
and
I don't know if it's her. Originally, I did think I was like, well, clearly it's Rebecca. But then, when not that the housekeeper, Miss Gross, points out that every couple of times a year, she has to clean mud.
mhm.
But she acted like that's been going on for years. I don't think Rebecca's been dead for years. I think that's within the last year or so. They don't really give a solid timeline. Um, but if she hasn't been dead for that, in other words, I think that's been happening before her death. Now that's an assumption. I don't know that just based on the way they were saying it. But that would lead me to believe there's something else going on with that lake just besides Rebecca. Like I
Well, I
said, I
think it
could be
might have been
wrong
since
depending on the timeline.
I think it could have been since the parents, but they haven't really said how long that they've been gone either. So I don't know.
Well, either way, it looks like it's because it's one set of footprints, so it's clearly one person. So if it's not if
The
it's not
dad's
the
carrying
previous
the
au
mom.
pair, well, yeah,
He's
that's a good.
piggybacking the mom ghost.
You could be right. He could be carrying her, and it could be like ghost reenacting a scenario that happened. There actually may be a point there, but then again, they uh, what's the sister's name again? I'm trying to recall her name. She
Flora.
Flora mentions that um, doesn't Flora mention a lady in the lake
Yes.
that she was trying to keep her. She was trying to keep Danny in her room because she didn't want the lady in the lake to get her. So that leads me to believe again that it may be her. And wasn't the previous au pair 2 years? No, the parents died 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, that's why, like I said, it's the one line of dialogue where after the events of the end of episode one, when they lock her in the closet and everything, and the mud is brought through the house. In episode two, Miss Gross points out that this happens a couple times a year. This is a normal thing, and that's what got me thinking. Well, did this happen before Rebecca died? Was this a common thing? I don't know.
Well, I think that it it may be more common than what she's letting on to also because Miss Gross kind of has like a blind spot when it comes to those kids. I mean, Miles is an asshole, and I mean that kid's been through a lot, but I think that there's something way more up with that character than we know so far. But she's just like, oh, he's just a kid. It's okay. So I think she's underplaying it. I think that it happens often. I don't think that it just happens once or twice a year. I think it happens a lot. But I still don't know what they mean, but I do think that it happens frequently, not just a couple times a year.
We have Owen. Owen is the cook. He's the one who drives Danny to the manor. Don't get a whole lot of him in the first two episodes. Basically, we know he's a cook. We know he trained in France. He doesn't love living there. He seems friendly, and his mother is ill. That's basically it. They'd set up a possibility of some kind of romance thing with him and Danny, or the idea that he, whether or not he finds her attractive. But like I said, that's about the extent of his first two episodes.
I think they're throwing you off with that. It seems like there's more of a chance for a romance with the gardener than anything. Like, 'cause there's that whole scene where she walks in the room and they talk, and she talks about how it seems like they've known each other, they've already met and everything.
I,
So, or did you get something else from that scene, that there's some other connection that they share? Like,
No, that's very possible. That's I mean, shit. Even real experience. Sometimes when a female is trying to hook you up with someone else, it's bullshit. They're interested. Um,
I don't want to say anything because I
Spencer's
may or may not know the
watched a
answer to
couple
that question.
episodes ahead, so he may know the answer to that.
I didn't mean to. I had to. I'm sorry. But I do know the answer to that question. So
Yeah.
I'm just.
Well, yeah, and it seemed like a clear setup, especially when she does the monologue. The minute that the gardener walks in the room, it kind of gives it away that it's like, oh, she's the one that really likes her, But it's the '80s. That's a little taboo, and of course they would jab at Owen about it for one, like, but yeah, there seems to be more of a connection there, and Owen. Uh, until something more interesting happens with Owen, not too interested in that character right now, because at the moment, Owen is, well, don't really need to know much more about Owen. Owen is all of us at like 15. He hates his hometown. He doesn't want to be there. And that's half of his personality.
It's
Other.
not.
Okay, so
It,
so there's more there.
well, it just like all the characters grow, and I'm not gonna because I've only watched through episode 4, and episodes 3 and 4 are basically just explanations of a couple things that we're gonna talk about in these two episodes. So, but his character does grow a lot. I think that each character, uh, the first couple episodes do a great job setting the groundwork for the characters. Um, like you said, Owen in the first couple characters, he almost feels like a throwaway character, but then as the season progressed, from what I've seen so far, he's he becomes way more interesting, and that to me is the most interesting part because when we look at all the characters, the one that they've showed the least is after the initial Lord Henry kind of introduction. He's not really around a whole lot, but he was billed as one of the main characters. So I'm very interested to see as the season progresses what his role is in all of this.
You mean Lord Henry or Owen?
No, Lord Henry, because they show him quite a bit at the beginning of the first episode, and then that's it.
Throughout the trailers, he's got a
And
lot
the
of yeah.
trailers, like he's a
Ah, okay.
big character. When you look at IMDb, I think he's listed second after the Danny character. He was one of the main characters in the Hill House. So, like, he feels like he's supposed to be way more important according to everything we've been shown so far. But from what I've watched so far, they're focusing on the other characters, which is good, but it makes me super interested into what the deal is with him.
Oh, so he's that character that his appearance is kind of a giveaway. Like if you see him, you think to yourself, okay, yeah, he's not just the mechanic or whatever, because he's been in a few seasons, and they usually use this actor for important roles. Well, that makes sense, and I figured we'd see him again because, well, I'm just trying to say he's the Zachary Quinto of this series, But like because it's like there's that scene where he hires her, and then we and he hints at a lot of mysterious things that he knows that he's not saying, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna see that guy again. He's clearly gonna show up at some point. And when he said don't call unless it's an emergency, eventually it'll get to that point. It'll be I don't know what it'll be, but there have been some small things that you would consider, you know, maybe emergencies, like, oh, I don't know, a mysterious man appearing throughout the house.
Miles stabbed Owen with a butcher knife.
Yeah, something like that. It'll be like, or when seeing how we're jumping around here anyway, when Miles
Owen didn't
starts
get stabbed with a butcher knife.
well, no, I'm not talking about that as if it happened. Like, but just saying, like, I'm glad you brought up Miles, because like when Miles strangled her with the strength of a grown man, that's kind of a thing to call his uncle about.
Yeah, his chokeout game is legit. He kicked that one kid at the school, and then her. And I was like,
right.
And he had one arm at the school.
That motherfucker.
Like Miles
way
is
ahead of
possessed.
His time.
Miles is possessed by the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah.
So
the housekeeper, Mrs. Gross, I find, at least in the first two episodes, to be the most suspect character, as far as clearly some shit's going on. There's several instances. The fact that she's very cautious to be in her room and away at nighttime. The fact that she saw a crack in the tile that apparently wasn't there. She's always spacing out. She won't eat. She refuses to eat or drink whenever offered, with the exception of tea once. They keep emphasizing that. She seems very religious. She wears a cross. There's a scene where she's in a church lighting the candles. Interestingly, that she lit 4 candles because only 3 people that we've been told so far, Rebecca and the parents, who's the 4th candle. So a lot of things about that character, you start to say, okay, there's some shit going on with them.
Well,
where's that going?
And it's the sort of thing where Danny may be the 4th character. Either she is, or we're definitely in a Sixth Sense scenario where it's like, oh, the kids did die. They were ghosts the whole time. It's not for the previous au pair. It's the is it the Sixth Sense?
No, I was thinking that one, but there's also one with Nicole Kidman, The Others. Where they're like the ghost.
Spoilers. Yes, the ghost.
That movie's like 20 years old.
I was going to say, if you didn't watch movies in the 90s or the 80s, just tune out right about here.
I at least
spoil every ghost picture.
At least for Miles, I don't believe Miles is a ghost. I think the fact that he was in boarding school 6 months prior, and the fact that he's clearly being possessed. It appears that he's being possessed. So I don't think that Miles is. Now, Flora's who knows? Flora's a different story.
Yeah. Miles, I'm assuming, is alive. So, I'm going to go ahead and roll that out myself, that it's Miles, for Miles. So that's a good guess, that it's for the parents and the previous au pair, and possibly the current au pair, because she may be dead and not even know it. Or it could be even for herself.
Could be for herself, yeah. It's gross.
Since she seems
for
to
Bruce
be
Willis.
Bruce
Willis. Like, Bruce, you're a ghost.
Makes sense. That's all. Okay. So we've been talking about Miles' possession. We get the boarding school flashback where we learn why he got kicked out of the school. And there's a whole sequence. I mean, they dedicate a lot of time to the Bible and the whole story of
Legion.
the Legion cast into the pigs and drowning themselves and all that stuff. So the idea of possession is a big theme for about 5-10 minutes of the story, and then he does a bunch of crazy things in order to get kicked out of the school. But I will point out when he jumps off the tree, he falls off a tree. It appears as if the moment before he falls, he's not himself. At least that's what I gathered. And then later he beats up a kid, and then he kills his teacher's bird, and then he, says a bunch of messed up stuff, and then he gets kicked out. And then you end up learning his sister wrote him a letter that says, come home. And if you paid attention to the letter, there's a lot of crazy shit on that on that picture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and the kid he was choking out was the one that was like super friendly to him.
That was his friend,
who was,
Yeah.
It was crazy because he was telling him, if you ever need anything, I know you've been through a lot, and he wasn't like giving him shit. He wasn't mean to him. Like he wasn't like behind closed doors trying to be the nice kid while he was being an asshole in class. Like this kid was legit trying to be his friend and help him, and he about killed him. And to me, that was the biggest like
Kinda
red
giveaway.
flag as far as that something's going on, because even the climbing the tree stuff, when that happened, I was thinking more suicidal because of his parents prior to, what I'm saying? Like it felt like he was just like, you know what, fuck it. That's what I got from that scene. But then when he tried to choke out his friend, in the next scene, it made me go back and look at the scene where he was in the tree. So I looked at that differently after seeing him almost choke his friend out. Like, well, he did choke him out, like almost kill him.
Right. Yeah, it's the sort of thing. It's like something had to be wrong, and like you said, that kid was his friend, so that's what was weird about, because he could have choked out any of those other kids, and it seems like he was only trying to hurt people that were trying to help him, and that's what sort of gives me the idea that he was possessed also during that time.
Yeah, why is the thing not wanting him to get help?
I think an interesting line, though, is he asks, as far as the possession, permission needs to be asked. So is there a scenario here playing out where he's willingly, or, you know what I mean, like asked to be taken over, or, what was the meaning? What was the point of those lines?
Well, yeah, and it seemed like he was asking for himself, almost like he's being possessed or he's being haunted, and he didn't ask for this, but it's happening to him. It seems like that's what he was asking. Is this my fault? Did I somehow want this to happen to me? Is this the reason it's happening?
Well, and if we think about it to the, if he thinks it's his dad, so, like if the ghost came to him and like, I don't know exactly, but if he felt like he could be back with his dad again, like if he felt like whoever this thing is that's possessing him is his dad, whether it is his dad or whether it's a demon or bad ghost or whatever, if he felt like it was dad, he may have very well willingly been like, you know what, I want to, be around him again. So I don't know enough yet to say who or what it is that possibly could be possessing him, but that to me would be the only scenario where he would willingly do it.
Right. Yeah, and I was thinking the same thing too, since it appears to be his father, and if anything, he probably, given the scenario, given what happened, prior to him coming to boarding school, he probably wanted his family back, and if it seemed like he could get that back to some degree, he may have, sort of willingly let this creature into his house or into his home in some way.
Yes. Let's see here. So Flora. Let's talk about Flora. Flora, the sister of Miles. Uh, real nice. You know, I believe the actress is. I think I saw this online. She plays Peppa Pig, the little pig character. Yeah, like she she has all these dolls, and if you notice in the dollhouse, some of the doll designs appear to be some of the, one of the cool things about the show is there's constantly ghosts and shit in the background if you pay attention. Some of them appear to look similar to some of the dolls in the house. So I would assume, this is a pure assumption, that a lot of those dolls, if not all of them, are in fact ghosts that are haunting or that are in that house that she sees. Clearly, she's communicating with these things. There's the scene at the end of episode 2 where a ghost thing is rising up, making noise, and she just shushes it like it's nothing, no big deal.
That
Um,
was creepy as hell.
Very
Yeah.
creepy, but she's clearly just sort of like, yeah, whatever. And we get the first signs of that in episode 1 where she's getting her bath and she keeps looking behind Danny, like she's looking at something. And in Danny's mind, it's a mirror. So I'm thinking in Danny's mind, she's thinking, is she seeing the ghost that she sees? But I think it may be something different. She's then given a hair clip, a butterfly hair clip by Miles, which Flora points out belonged to Rebecca. And at first she's pissed about it, but then she seems to be communicating and being told that it's okay. Like there's a lot of things going on in that particular scene. Uh, yeah, do you agree as far as she's communicating constantly with these ghosts and they're telling her what's cool, what's not cool, you know?
Well, yeah, that seems to be the case, and it also seems to me that the thing with the dolls, that could be a number of things, because we sort of got uh, a bit of a explanation from the housekeeper, and if that holds true to some degree, uh, it, they may be protective totems of some
Well,
kind, and
there's
even though
two different kinds. Yes, there's the totems, which are made of sticks, and then
Mhm.
there's the dolls that are not. There's like two different kinds, and the ones that are, and then there's the particular one that's clearly special because she hides the shit under her bed, she puts it under her cabinet. When it lands straight up, and it seems to be angry sometimes because she freaks out based on how it's communicating with her.
right, yeah, and when they locked her in the closet, it was because she accidentally
She
kicked it.
kicked it. Yes.
So it's hard to say that maybe some of these are benevolent, maybe all of them are to some degree, but sentient enough that you can anger them, like that they can either be displeased or angered, or in a docile state. And I'm also curious if if the plague doctor looking thing that we keep saying, if that's one of them.
One of the dolls in her house, I believe, looks like that too. And yeah, he keeps or whatever it keeps popping up a lot. I've noticed it in 3 or 4 different scenes.
Well, if there's also a scene where one of the dolls looks like it's laying down on its side and holding on to the door frame or the wall frame. Did you see that?
I missed that one.
Oh, that was creepy as shit. Like it's one of the scenes where it's panning to all the different dolls and stuff, and one of them is like laying on its side, holding the wall.
Oh,
Like
is it like it?
all you can see is the head and the arms are like pushed on the wall. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
either creeping around the corner or getting pulled away. And that was, to me, that was the creepiest doll scene.
yeah. I actually did see that one. Now that you mention it, so that's the question. If they're lurking in that way, they could have gotten her at any time. So are they more protective than anything? And are they? And if they are benevolent, are they all like that? Or are some of those dolls a threat?
My this pure guess, I think clearly there's one that's an asshole. I think you know what I mean. I think they're probably different degrees. Some are probably like chill. Some are different um, attitudes. But clearly, I think there's one that's a problem, and that the kids appear to be a little concerned with. The locking her in the closet, I think, was completely to protect her
Right.
from whatever the hell that was coming from that lake. Uh, Now the question is, do you think these are all ghosts, as in these are people that have died, or do you think there's some forces that are supposedly, demons or something beyond that?
Well, it just brought me back to a line that we got from the kid's uncle. Um, when Danny asked what the real problem is, what the catch was, and his word was, and this leads me to believe that, besides ghosts, there may also be a Twilight Zone type thing going on here. Um, his his words were imagination. That was the first thing that popped out of his mouth. That the problem was imagination. He didn't say people's imagination, just imagination in general. So it may be the dolls, these may be totems that she's making, and being a kid, and it partially being a game for her, or her being unaware that she's doing what she's doing, just being a kid, making these dolls and playing with them and giving them personalities, and saying that they're doing these things, and they have likes and dislikes. She's creating these scenarios when she places them places, like in the dollhouse and whatnot, and like the one may be angry because that's the sort of personality she assigned it in whatever game she's playing. And it may be, well, I'm getting, it may be an unconscious sort of psychic thing that she's doing in a way.
Well, this is just the sequel to Hereditary. Where they the dollhouse.
I would say, don't say that. I'll stop now.
God, that movie was so bad. But anyway,
you can check out our review for that on the channel, and it's up.
That movie was something. But I'm getting a big Amityville like horror vibe. Not just because, I feel like there's ghosts in the house, but I think there's one of them that's bad. And I think the one of them that's bad perhaps took the place of a...
You think it has some connection to that doll?
Yes. Here it goes. God. I've been trying to pair my CGM, my glucose monitor, for like the last 20 minutes. It wouldn't fucking take. Finally did. But they, the Amityville horror vibe, it was the one kind of like the bad demon that possessed the dad, and the dad killed everybody else, and then there was all these ghosts. But then the dad basically became
Spoiler.
That movie came out in the 70s. Holy shit.
I did say
the remake.
Like for anybody listening, I did say if you've any sort of ghost movie you've watched in the 90s, 80s, what have you, we're going to spoil it.
I'm joking.
Yeah, have so far.
Fucking Amityville. But I think that when you look at something like that, I think that maybe the person you saw on the parapet or the one that you saw in the window, I think that character may...
What if this is a remake of Drop Dead Fred, and they're all imaginary, imaginary friends?
This would be the best show that I've ever seen in my life. Scary Drop Dead Fred.
Talk about something that should have been rebooted. Like, I would accept a reboot of the Drop Dead Fred.
No, I just want Winona Ryder to do it again.
It wasn't Winona Ryder.
Who? No, it was shit. What was her name? Not Phoebe Coates.
It was the girl. She did a bunch of 80s movies.
I know.
Huh. Damn it. I gotta look it up.
I'll get it. Go ahead and just continue.
Oh, you were talking about different. Yeah.
I think Phoebe Coates. Oh yeah. Shit, I was right.
Yeah.
Corrected myself correctly.
Yeah, while we're talking about that, but the actor that plays Drop Dead Fred, well, he was British, so shit, this supposed to take place in...
See? There you go.
There you go. Cross it. There you go.
There's your incredibly loose connection.
Yeah. He had passed away not long ago. But anyways, maybe we'll review that one day. I think all the ideas are valid. We're only 2 episodes in. Well, Spencer 4, but it's a 9-episode series. Clearly, there's mysteries upon mysteries woven in here. A lot of the characters are acting odd. My question is, Spencer, you watched the first series. And they're not considering these seasons. They're each is a standalone series. Did the first series end in a way where there were still questions unanswered?
Yes and no. And I don't mean that to be vague. I don't want to ruin that for you guys because I suggest going back and watching it. It's
Yeah.
not. It's similar in length to this. It's not super long, but by the end of it, they close it and they explain a lot of things, but it's still like that supernatural kind of ghost type element. So if you believe in those things, it ties it up a lot better than if you're skeptical about ghosts, afterlife, those kind of things. Because similar to this, it's set more real life ish. It's not Ghostbusters where they're throwing out these made up ghost packs and they're catching ghosts. It's set more like a
It's
Conjuring type thing where it
yes.
feels more real. So, but it does tie it up. I mean, it explains a lot of things, but it's like I said, it's believable if you believe more in these kind of events.
So it's a more grounded ghost story, and it ends in
Yeah,
a very grounded way. But it
yeah,
does perhaps leave open the idea that it's like, oh, maybe it wasn't a haunting. Maybe it was people. I think, like you said earlier, potentially haunted by their own personal demons, or something else
yes,
that was going on.
yeah. Which is
The
kind of why I felt this season may be something similar, but not 100% the same. Because, like I said, they close it out the first season.
Yeah.
They give you closure. They explain what some of the things are, what's causing it, but there still is that question mark on 100% whether or not it was real or not, which is kind of how I feel this is going so far. But this one is, I'm not going to say it's more creepy. It's a lot different. It's a different creepy.
How many seasons have there been of the show? Is this only the second one,
This
or?
is a second.
Only
Yeah.
a second. And like I said, each one's a like they don't even group them together on Netflix. Like you have to find them
No, they don't.
individually.
Yeah.
They're each considered a standalone, and each one is like this one is based off. They're based off books, old ghost stories. Um,
Well, just the director, creator, writer guy is the same guy we reviewed Hush, and he's the one that did that as well.
oh shit! Okay, yeah, that's a great movie. Yeah, that review's up. I love that movie.
And the girl that's in that is his wife. And that's when they met, but she was in the first season. I haven't seen her yet in this series. And I keep looking to see if she shows up, but she hasn't yet.
The end of episode 2 has her deciding to play a game of hide and seek, which I thought was
That was so
stupid.
creepy.
Yeah.
Well, not, take the ghost out of the equation. Like, you got this big house, you're gonna have kids running around in the dark. There's things could go wrong. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And she's not that familiar with the house yet, so why would you want to have the kids potentially hide and
In
She's
a
I don't
not
know.
giant
that
mansion.
familiar with the house. There's a forbidden wing of the house for some reason.
Yes.
Which is weird to me. She didn't think to ask, like, why is it forbidden to go in this entire wing of the building? I'd be very suspicious of that,
So
honestly, if I was her.
that is
But
that's where the Babadook lives.
Well, in thinking like an adult, she doesn't know Miss Gross. She doesn't know Jamie. She doesn't know Owen. She doesn't know any of these people well enough to be like, you know what? These people aren't going to murder me. These people aren't going to try to sexually assault me. Like, she doesn't know these people. So for her to just be trusting and be like, all right, kids, let's go play at nighttime in the dark in this giant ass fucking house that I don't know where anything is, this seems like a great idea. I was like, oh my God, this is, it's like a bad movie trope almost, like a scary movie. I'm like, let's turn all the lights off and do something stupid. It's like, oh my God.
like, well, to be fair, some people are that stupid. Like, but
Yes.
like But yeah, it was a bad idea, and it was clearly like you knew that's when you were going to get some scares, and that is when some of the creepiest moments in
Dude.
the episode happened. Well, all the creepiest moments roughly happened right right after that.
Danny sees in episode 1 a guy on the balcony in the Forbidden Wing. She waves at him. He doesn't wave back. They convince her that she probably was just seeing something. During the game of hide and seek, she finds a picture in a music box. He's in the picture. And then at the very end, he appears in a mirror and seems to sort of be taunting her. She goes outside. He's not there. She comes back inside. Miles passes out, and then when Miles awakes, he sees him in the um, window. So clearly, he's a guy. He's a ghost. He's something. And my assumption is that he's the one screwing with Miles. That's just an assumption. Do you guys think the same, or?
Yes, and I think he's the dad also. I think the parents did die, but maybe he wasn't the best of guys, and it's because it's clearly, or it seems, especially some of the language that Miles uses sometimes, that like he's being possessed by a much older person than he is. And just some of the things he does, and I think it's the dad.
It's it it's crazy because like he in the second episode, is that the one where he's like standing at the window?
That's the one.
Okay, I didn't want to, but the smile that he has is a very similar smile that Miles makes
Oh,
when he's getting ready to get suspended. That kind of looking down, like smiling thing.
I didn't even piece that together.
Yeah, there's a couple scenes, not just like what he says and the adulty things he does, but like those kind of things. The smile, the hands behind his back, like how he was standing in a couple scenes, how he was standing on the parapet,
Hmm.
the little balcony thing, were very similar. So there's a couple sequences that kind of lead you to believe that that is what's happening, but that shit was creepy.
So the only other character, and we talked about her a little bit, was the gardener. Uh, she's barely in episode 1, and she talks in episode 2. Clearly going to be important going forward. Um, but we don't know a whole lot about her either. If she is in fact the one telling the story, that's very interesting to see where it's going to go if that is the case. Um, yeah. Any thoughts on
I can't
Jamie?
talk about her.
Oh, answers. Okay. So let's see here.
Well, without spoiling anything, she becomes way more important in the third and fourth episode that I've seen so far. Like she just it like I said, the third and fourth episode just they don't reveal any of the big things yet, but they do kind of
Give you some context clues.
yeah, they give you background to some of the characters. And
She's
she's
the
one of the characters they give background to.
she's the faceless doll.
Yep. And she's gonna eat Danny.
Well, I mean, phrasing, like, but yeah, like that's my opinion. She's a love interest,
I said what I said.
and I meant what I said.
Uh, there's lots of little details here and there, but that is the bulk of that's basically all my notes. Like I said, it's just the first 2 episodes. Every scene, I mean, there's so much jammed into it as far as little background details and ghosts hidden and stuff like that. But anything else you guys want to talk about as far as the first 2 episodes?
I thought it was crazy that some of the doll scenes, they, like you said, there's ones that are totems that feel like they're totems because they're not as voodoo doll-ish looking. But I am interested to see because there's so many people in the house that oh shit, there's so many people in the house, but I'm not 100% sure why. Like, there's, even if they had different gardeners or a different au pair or different stuff, there's so many people in that house, and I'm really curious as to who all those dolls represent.
Oh, so you're saying if the dolls are potentially like other people who fell victim to the house or something, like we'll get a flashback and there's an entirely different staff,
Yeah, or a different family, or different. Maybe the uncle grew up in the house too. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if those are all representative of different families, or if she just created those, or if those are clearly that house wasn't built like as they moved in. It's been there for a minute. So, are those multiple hauntings? Is it like The Shining, where there's hundreds of people who have died there? Like, I don't know.
Like, so yeah, like there's that's a possibility, and that's a thought I had too, that they all represented victims of the house in some way.
That's one or it could just be similar, like other thing. The Shining is a good example. It could just be a gathering point for some things. Like I said, that's assuming they're all ghosts. Well, some of them may not be. But it could be. We don't know how old that manor is. That shit could have been there a long time.
Yeah, and we referenced the Lady of the Lake, thinking it could be Rebecca because that's where she drowned. Shit, there could be like 9 ladies of the lake. That could be a spot where a bunch of people had died or drowned, or who's to say that manor, even when it was built, there wasn't a house there that was before that had a bunch of people who died. So there's there's several scenes that come later, that I think that will build upon that. And I'm not saying like in episodes 3 and 4. I think that from the previews, there's a lot of things that are shown that I think that are going to either explain it or compound and confuse us. I don't know which yet.
All right. So yeah, those are the first 2 episodes. We're going to be putting up this weekend a review for 3, 4, and 5. And then, like I said, we'll do 2 more parts next week, 6, 7, and 8, and 9, and that'll be the Haunting of Bly Manor. So yeah, we're gonna get
Looking
going
forward
here.
to it.
Yeah, it's fun so far.
Oh yeah,
Nice and
definitely.
creepy. Perfect for
I'm
the
actually
season.
I'm actually liking this one a little more than I thought I would. Like I didn't look at anything before we started this. Like I didn't even watch the trailers. So, I'm kind of going into this completely, you know, clean of any preconceptions or anything.
As
I
of
wish I did that more often.
as of this moment, it's number 1 on Netflix. So it's finally beating Adam Sandler, which is difficult to do. He's the king of Netflix. But all right, we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.